Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be doing a box opening of Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn. So just to give you a little personal history with myself in this game, this was one of my favorite games to play back in the early 1980s. I had gotten it as soon as it had come out. My player group, we had played, Star Frontiers, both Alpha Dawn and then Nighthawks, and kind of expanded as the characters went along, including the skill sets that Nighthawks had, and eventually Zebulon's Guide to the Galaxy. I believe that's what it was called, which we didn't spend too much time with. We liked it for the background information for the various corporations and such, but we were still pretty much fans of the way Star Frontiers was working before that had come out, and I've seen it argued that Star Frontiers was Alpha Dawn and Nighthawks, and Zebulon's Guide was something else. It wasn't quite this game. It was such a dramatic change in the way things were done that it was a totally different game. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but I wouldn't go that far. But anyway, this is a box opening. So I picked this up on eBay. Finally found where it was under $40 for a believed to be nearly complete box set. So there might be a piece missing or so. And so I'm just going to switch, and I'm hoping that that's the way that Nighthawks comes as well. I got it for under $40. And so combined up $80 to replace two games that I really played so much back in the 1980s. It was great. So here we go. So here's the box. Now, unlike my previous box openings, you're not going to actually see it come out of the box that it was contained in because of COVID-19, and my wife is very nervous about packages coming from the outside in. We remove them inside the garage and then wipe down the individual contents, and it's almost like being in Mop 4 to take care of the mail. But hey, we've been healthy through this last almost 2 months of lockdown, so it must be working. So be safe out there as well. So here's the box, and you can see the cover. It does have a few bends, no major. Well, there was a tear here that was taped up, but the box itself is in fairly decent condition. I'm really quite happy with it. It will go on the shelf, and it'll stay on the shelf and just be fine. The contents in the box. So here we have the game rulebook, and I'll go through each of these. Through the desktop view. It has the expanded rulebook, which is considerably thicker. If you compare it to the basic. So it's probably twice or even 3 times thicker for the expanded rules. It came with the map. So this is the interior of a ship. All right, so this is the interior of the ship, and then this is the land mass. So this is Volturnus. It comes with the introductory adventure Crash on Volturnus. And that's basically a requirement to run for new players, just to learn the system. Then here is the large either station or city map, in very good condition. And then here is the bottom box, and some of the counters are still in their frame, and then the rest were loose, and I put them in there. I haven't quite checked yet to see that it is complete. I'll basically fill in the gaps of the framework here, and then we shall see if it is missing any counters or not. I have a sense that it may not actually be, because I'm taking a look at what appears to be out of that framework, and it's looking pretty darn close to what is loose. So let's switch views. And so here I will set that aside. Let's go to the basic game rules. Let's see if we have this set up well. We'll come down. Sorry about that. Every once in a while I have to adjust this. So here's the basic rules. And we go right in. So this is the 1982 TSR project. Now I know this says the original on the box, and I don't know if that's, it's kind of strange that they would say it's the original if it was the original. That seems like more like you wouldn't start off with that. So I have no idea as far as maybe that's an additional printing or it came out later. But this one here says it is the first printing, July 1982. So I'm assuming that it is, in fact, the original based on that. And it's my first time actually going through the books themselves, even though I opened up the box and added, put some of those loose counters in the sandwich bag. These are the first time that I'm actually flipping through the books themselves. So here we have the introduction, the character races and such. The dice system, it uses a D100 system, or they called it the D10. So you're rolling two D10s to determine your attributes, your skills, and so on. So it's a very simple system to use. Excuse me. So here, the way that you roll for your ability scores, and I can actually lower that down and bring it in a little bit tighter for you. So ability scores. You roll D100, that will give you your base score. All right. You'll repeat step 2 for each of your 4 paired up skill areas. So you'll have strength and stamina, dexterity and response, intelligence and logic, personality and leadership. And so when you roll, if you roll, 45s, 50, a 45, a 50, a 55, and a 60, let's say, then you would assign the 45, the 50, the 55, and the 60 to whatever pairing that you wish, and both of those attributes will be that number. Then you go and you do your racial modifications, which may increase or decrease either one specific ability attribute score, or it might either enhance or detract from both in that same category. Usually it adds or it takes away 5 from each. So when we look here, you'll see that for Dralicites, let's see, you don't see what I'm seeing. So here you have the ability modifiers. So in this case here, humans get no bonus, all right, but they get to add +5 to one individual attribute area, all right, whereas a Dralicite, you get +5 to both strength and stamina, and a -5 to both dexterity and your response time. All right, so or reaction speed. So the advantage to humans is that you don't get any minuses, but you only get a +5 to 1 skill area or attribute area separate from the pairing. And the other races are, you know, -10 in one area, +5 and +5 in the other for Yazirians, as you can see, or +5, -5. So they are kind of balanced out. Rusk gets a -5 and a +5. So there were only 4 races in the initial game. You know, so you have humans, you have Dralicite, you have Rusk, and you have Yazirians, and they're each have their advantages and disadvantages. Each have skills that they function better at. The system for combat, once again, is based on, you're rolling 2d10, so d100, to determine whether or not you hit. And then the quality of your hit comes into play. The higher your ability scores, the higher your skill rating is. The higher your skill rating is, the higher that your critical hit chance becomes, and the lower that your critical failure obviously becomes as well. They go through on how to play, and just flipping through, it's a very, very simple system to use. Once again, the real star behind this game, here's the character sheet. So very simple character sheet here. You have stamina, which is an important thing to keep track of. It's kind of like your hit points, basically. And you have your weapons, your defenses, so you could have suits or screens, your energy record, so if you're using weapons that have energy consumption, you have to keep track of that as well. And then your racial abilities, your experience, your credits, pay per day, and such. So one page, very, very simple, very, very simple system or character sheet. So here's the expanded rules. I'll back out a tiny bit. Once again, I apologize for keep on changing the camera. Every new book that I put up here is, a little bit different in dimensions, and, sometimes the print and everything, it doesn't always go back and forth. So once again, we have an introduction to the game, and everything about character creation remains the same. What they have here is a little bit more information about each of the races. And like I was saying, the real essence of Star Frontiers became its alien species. I mean, even people who haven't played Star Frontiers have seen Dralicites before, or have heard about Dralicites before, and it really became an alien species that was an endearing species. A lot of people were just like, well, these are really cool, and I've experienced a lot of people playing Dralicites. They have a lot of fun playing this particular species. Humans, I still have a fondness for playing humans in most games. Mainly because many other people don't like playing humans. Rusk, once again, they took an alien race or species, based on an insect, and that became like something that was okay. I mean, it was one of the species that were, quote unquote, friendly to to humans and to the, United Planet Federation. I'm confusing, I'm getting Star Wars and this mixed up, but I think it is United Planet United Planet Federation. I'll get to that in a minute. But once again, they took something that people generally have like a, usually a revulsion for, any kind of insect kind of thing, and they made it not the real protagonist in the universe here. You have Yazirians, which are kind of like flying monkeys. This is the bad guys. All right, so this is the Sapphire, and they're basically worm-like creatures with, with 2 feet for appendages and arms, and as non-scary as they are, their reputation is really what made that species scary per se. It was that they were very warlike and just dangerous. They were technologically slightly more advanced than everybody else, and they were just so aggressive in their expansionism that they became a believable species to be feared. And so even though they don't look that scary, it was always a challenging adventure when you were facing Sapphire, and that's how the official modules had actually worked, and that's how a lot of DMs or GMs that you would call in this, handled them. They became the true nemesis out there, and you might be pursuing other stories, and pursuing other types of foes. If you were Star-Lord Rangers and you're going after a smuggling ring, and then all of a sudden you discover that they're somehow connected to the Sapphire, and then it became, wow, this is a really bigger deal than what we were intending to get ourselves involved with. And so, once again, the atmosphere that Star Frontiers created around its galaxy is, and its backstory and its history and everything really took a life, onto its own. And, it's the true strength of this game is the, just the aesthetic of it and just the feel. You felt like you were in a really in-depth universe, no matter where or what you were doing out there on the frontiers. Now, as we go through, there's expanded combat, so they increase and this all came in the same box set, so it was, you might do one, excuse me, you might do one adventure with just the basic, just to learn the system, and then you will kind of upgrade your characters to the expanded version and then play them from there. And going through, we have vehicle combat, which is introduced. Many more pieces of equipment, which are also introduced in this as well. Very useful charts here, melee weapons, ranged weapons, combat sequence, the melee procedure, punching table. Going through, we have the skills and the success rate. So just taking a real quick look, analyzing ecosystems, you'd have a 30% plus your skill level in that particular skill. And so, that 30% would be added to whatever your stats are, added to that. And so you'd end up with someplace around, usually it's like half your rating. So you might end up with in the beginning, like a 52 or 55% chance of being successful doing the analysis. As you become higher and higher level, it actually increases. And so you'll end up with, a much better chance of succeeding when you're making your attempts. And so on. So there's a lot of tables in the expanded book. A lot of additional skills. additional scenarios like vehicle combat, aerial combat. There's a complete kind of like a monster manual section in here. And then we go to more suits and equipment. And then finally, in the last section, we get to basically setting materials. So frontier societies. So we have the frontier societies here. The frontier map, which I'll try to give you a full view. I'm sorry I can't switch it around. But this is the entire frontier map. There's another larger one that comes with Zebulon's Guide to the galaxy there, and that expands. It creates another whole section over here. But you could spend all of your time, obviously, in this one particular map. And so on. They go through the languages, the cost of living, and such, and how to referee in the game system. Now, I am going to reach back and grab one thing now. A lot of this material you can or at least you used to be able to. I'm going to switch to. For a while, no one was working with the Star Frontiers IP, and it remained dormant as far as TRS was concerned, and as far as Wizards of the Coast was concerned, for close to 30 years or so. And the game did not die over that 30 years. The game was still out there, and a number of people were still producing materials for it. They were writing the Star Frontiersman, which was an online magazine for it, where they were producing and expanding new information for the game, and they were also, made available all of the PDFs. And for decades, those PDFs were free. You could access them, you could download them, and there was no problems with it whatsoever. A couple of years ago, another company, and I don't know all of the exact details for this, but another company was looking to get a hold of the Star Frontiers IP. And that's when Wizards of the Coast suddenly became interested in, I think, more so protecting the IP from getting snatched away. Because if they didn't act on it, I think they would have lost it. And not that the public domain would have really come in, but the fact is that it was completely abandoned. And so they might have actually faced a challenge if someone else started to produce materials, and then they had to reinsert with a company over gaining control of the IP again. So what they did was they very, very cheaply, I would say, and when I say cheap, I mean, cheap as far as cost is concerned, and cheap as far as their ethics is concerned. They cheaply just took scans of these two and of Nighthawks and slapped them into two hardcovers that they charge on drive-through, like full hardcover price that you'd normally see. So $25, $30 for it in hardcover. I think there is a softcover version of it. I got the original box set for $35, so I'd rather give some third party for the original than give Wizards of the Coast for a cheap scan of these anyway. But going back to the PDFs, if you were fortunate enough to grab a hold of all the PDFs, that's basically what I have here. And I have here everything from Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn and I broke it down into sections, so it has it all. Same thing I had just shown you. And then, actually, I can switch over here. Go back to this here. So here I have so this is still part of Alpha Dawn. And then, still Alpha Dawn and the, additional rules. And this is already huge. I mean, this is all of the materials. I believe it does have some expanded materials inside this. It's more than just the combined up those two books. Then there's the United Planetary Federation, the board game. All right, and so it goes through that. And this was a supplement part of Nighthawks, which I'm going to do a review, a box opening of Nighthawks, potentially on Saturday. So here is all of Nighthawks. And that's the board game part. Then here we have Nighthawks, the RPG part, where you're going to have an introduction to the various space-related and spaceship-related skills. And here you have your spaceship skills. And like I said, fortunately, I was able to get copies of all of this before it disappeared off the internet, and they were forced to take it off of the website that it was there for almost 20 years without resistance. So Star Frontiers, Zebulon's Guide to the Frontier, which I also have here, and this expands it. And what this really does is this. It adds so many new skills and information to it. And there was a different skills resolution chart on it. And then I have some, this was the original module that came with this, and then several other modules that I have here, including a few that I wrote myself. So this was a very useful, chart where it has all the information that you would need, and this is from the Star Frontiers network that was very active on the internet, where you can go and you can get the various inclusions and additional ways of playing the game and such. So anyway, overall, I'm very happy with the box set that I purchased. Like I said, under $40. That included shipping and handling, and in very decent condition. So I'm happy with that. I have to double check to make sure that the counters are complete. Even though I didn't play very much with counters anyway, I've never been a person focused on using counters. But when I do get the Nighthawks, I will do a video for that as well. This is a great game, and if you've never played this before, and you can still get your hands on a copy of this, you can go to a drive-through and get it there as well. But it's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's a great game to teach new players, new RPG players. It's a very simple system to use, and its setting is absolutely phenomenal. Now, when I'm done doing both of my videos for Alpha Dawn and for Nighthawks, I am then going to take a look at Frontier Space, which is considered by many to be the next generation, even though it's like 3 generations later. It's considered the next generation of Star Frontiers. So I've been looking through the books. It's quite extensive books to go through. I was fortunate enough to to save up a lot of the contributions that my drive-through affiliate program was providing, and so I was able to get those books for basically shipping and handling. So once again, I really appreciate people on the channel, supporting the channel, not just through subscriptions, not just through leaving comments or liking videos, but also in utilizing the link for for going through to drive-through RPG, because that does give me the funds that I then turn around and I use for purchasing new games so that I can show you even more content. So when I do tear through the rest of a frontier space and I have a fairly good working knowledge of that game system, then I'll do a comparison between the two, and not so much saying, well, you should play this one instead of that one, but just saying, look how they're very similar to each other, and look how they're just so much fun to play this style of space frontiersmanship, if you will. That idea of exploring out there. I don't know if it would quite compare to Travelers as far as this space opera kind of, or Star Wars, or haven't quite looked at both and looked for looked for a fair comparison. But as far as settings is concerned, I think Star Frontiers has such an in-depth setting that it does fairly compare well against Star Wars. I think it almost has an equal feeling of that sense of just a broad open frontier of space where you can have high adventure in frontier space. So I would give it credit in that it certainly matches up fairly well with some of those AAA IPs that are out there. So once again, thanks for joining. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really like this video, please consider sharing it. I already put it up on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, but you most likely have a much larger reach than I do, obviously, on my own. And so if you have other people out there that you think might be interested in playing this game, please share the video and encourage them to come to the site and to leave their comments, either directly about this or about other games that you'd like for me to take a look at. I'm always open up to looking at new games. I also have sitting on my shelf that's been there for quite some time, Mothership, which I want to tear into as well. So I'm kind of on a space RPG theme running these next 2 weeks or so, and so I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So once again, have a great week. Stay safe out there. Upcoming weekend, I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You all have a great afternoon. Take care.